I didn't plan on stopping that night. In fact, I'd been avoiding that stretch of highway for weeks. Ever since I moved to Reading, I had gone out of my way to take the longer route home, past neighborhoods with porch lights, grocery stores that still stayed open late, or anywhere I could blend into a hum of life. But on June 10th, 47 days after the miscarriage, I couldn't do it anymore. The fridge was empty. The living room was dark. The notifications on my phone had stopped altogether. I'd made it through every "How are you" text and every "Thinking of you" card. I'd even sent a few "I'm doing okay" replies to people I barely knew. But when the last of them stopped coming, something inside me buckled. The yellow Burger King sign blinked like a dying eye through the windshield. That parking lot, always half-lit, always mostly empty, had once felt sad. That night, it felt like shelter. I pulled in without thinking. It was 7:40 p.m. when I walked in. The air smelled like old fryer grease and plastic booths. There were only 3 people inside, a young mom and her toddler near the back, and a man I didn't recognize sitting alone near the window. I clocked him in my periphery, gray at the temples, button-up shirt too crisp for fast food, and a drink he stirred with a straw over and over. His eyes met mine for a split second before flicking away. I don't know why that moment stuck. It felt like he'd been waiting to be seen. I ordered a Whopper, no cheese, fries, and a Diet Coke. The cashier looked barely 20 and didn't lift his eyes. I took my tray to the window booth one table over from the man. I didn't want company. I just didn't want to be alone at home again. The first few bites tasted like salt and exhaustion. I watched the traffic signals cycle, the same cars passing in and out of frame like a looped film. The burger felt heavy in my hands. Since leaving the school, I hadn't really eaten in public. I hadn't really done much of anything except exist in the shadows of things I used to love. Teaching had been my rhythm, my identity. Now even silence felt like too much noise. Then he spoke. "You used to teach, didn't you?" His voice didn't match the setting. Calm, low, almost too even. I stiffened. He wasn't looking at me directly, just past me, through the window maybe. My first instinct was to pretend I didn't hear. "Sorry?" He nodded slightly. "4th grade, Rivergate Elementary. My niece was in your class." That hit like a shove. I blinked at him. He gave a soft smile like he expected my confusion. "You probably wouldn't remember her. But you always wore scarves, even when it was warm." My throat dried up. I hadn't worn that scarf since winter. Pale blue with little flowers. It had gone missing from my laundry back in April, but I assumed it got lost in the chaos of moving. Now I wasn't sure. I moved 2 booths away after that. He didn't follow. He didn't speak again. Just sipped his drink and watched the world beyond the glass. I kept my back to him, eyes fixed on the reflection in the window, where his figure remained still. At 8:15, the mother and toddler left. The little boy waved. I forced a smile. When I looked back, it was just me and the man. The overhead light flickered. I stood up, dumped my tray, and walked toward the hallway marked for restrooms. The quiet back there made the restaurant feel like it had been swallowed. "Hello?" I called. No response. When I turned, he had moved, into the booth I had been sitting in earlier. And on the table in front of him, my scarf. Same pale blue, same fading floral print. I stared at it like it might disappear if I blinked too hard. "What is this?" I whispered. He looked up. "You're so much quieter now." My skin crawled. I backed away. "I'm calling someone," I said. He shook his head gently. "No one picks up when you call, Autumn. That's why you came here, right?" I didn't answer. I turned and ran. Outside, the lot was empty. My car, gone. I froze. My stomach flipped. Panic clawed at my chest. I heard his voice behind me before I saw him. "You left it unlocked. I took it around back. It's safe. For now." He was close. Too close. I ran, straight across the highway toward the gas station. Horns blared. My foot caught the curb and I slammed into the door, fumbling to get inside. The clerk's face turned pale as I stumbled in, screaming for help. My voice cracked. The floor spun under my feet. A police car arrived in minutes. I gave my statement. I tried to sound calm. I explained the scarf, the booth, the man's voice like he already knew me. I said the word stalked, but it didn't feel like enough. The surveillance footage showed nothing. Just me entering, eating, leaving. No man, no scarf, no moment of him changing seats. My car was found around back, doors locked, keys in the ignition, no fingerprints but mine. It should have made me feel safer, but I couldn't stop thinking, why leave the scarf? The police offered resources, restraining order, therapy, emergency contacts. I declined. He hadn't broken a law. He had just known too much. I moved to Sacramento in 5 days. Shared housing, blank walls, strangers with names I barely asked. I bought curtains thick enough to block out even my reflection. Slept with the light on. Radio volume at a hum. Weeks passed. Nothing happened. Until a package arrived. No return address. Inside, one photo. Me. At a bus stop. Reflected in the glass behind me just faintly. The Burger King sign. The timestamp. June 10th, 8:05 p.m. I had already been inside. He had already spoken. No note, no message. Just the photo. Just the proof. I reported it. The detective looked tired when he nodded. We'll file it. But I saw what it was. Not a threat. A reminder. He was still watching. More weeks passed. I stopped opening the curtains altogether. But part of me kept looking over my shoulder. One morning, a text came from an unknown number. No words. Just a photo. Me. Standing in the lobby of my new apartment. My hair was wrapped in that scarf. The one I had thrown out weeks ago. Underneath it read, "Here lies the quiet booth. The window still watches." That line sank through my skin. It wasn't just a place anymore. It was me. I had become the booth. The quiet space. The window. He hadn't just stalked me. He had entered the silence I created after grief and made himself at home. That night I didn't sleep. I sat with every light on, door locked, holding a mug I didn't sip from, waiting for a knock. For the next message. For my name whispered into the dark. Nothing came. But that silence, thicker than any scream, told me everything. He knew me. Not just my name or job or scarf. He knew my loneliness. And he fed off it. The fear wasn't that he might hurt me. The fear was that he understood me too well and no one else had bothered to try. Eventually I started doing the things I'd stopped. Calling people, checking in, answering texts, even if they didn't respond. I stopped being the booth, the window. I became noise again, movement. He may still be watching. Maybe from afar, maybe closer than I want to know. But I'm not the quiet anymore. And I've learned something else too. Some people don't knock to be let in. They knock when they know no one else will answer. So ask yourself, if someone sees you in your most silent moment, do they want to understand you or own the parts no one else cared to notice? The first thing you should know is that I never wanted this life. Not the night shifts, not the fading city skyline, not the quiet fear that followed me home. If I had a choice, I'd be a sophomore at UNLV right now, probably figuring out my major and complaining about tuition over coffee with my sister. But life doesn't hand you choices. It hands you responsibilities. And when our mom was hospitalized after her breakdown last winter, I stepped in. I'm 19. Barely old enough to rent a car and already too tired to dream. Emily was 15 when everything spiraled. I pulled her out of school that month more times than I could count. Panic attacks, missed meals, long nights where she refused to sleep alone. I quit community college, moved us into a studio off Eastern Avenue, and took the first job I could find, graveyard shift at the Burger King on Flamingo Road. The store always felt like a leftover place. Industrial gray walls, flickering exit signs, a broken mop sink no one fixed. It didn't matter. I was good at keeping my head down. Carla, the night manager, didn't ask questions. She liked that I moved fast and didn't complain. She let me wear my earbuds, so I spent most nights listening to true crime podcasts while prepping breakfast trays or wiping down the soda machine. It was repetitive, sure, but safe. That changed on the first Saturday in May. That night, Carla stepped out for a smoke just after 11. The fry cook had already left. I was alone behind the counter, catching the last minutes of a story about a missing hiker in Utah, when the drive-thru speaker clicked on. No chime, no greeting, just static and the faint, unnatural sound of someone breathing. I paused the podcast and leaned into the mic. "Welcome to Burger King," I said, trying to keep my voice level. "May I take your order?" Silence. Then, a whisper, almost like someone was speaking through cupped hands. "I know you're in there alone, Justin." The voice knew my name. Not just the voice. It was the way it said it. Low and flat, without a trace of question. Not, "Is Justin there?" or, "Hey, Justin." Just a cold fact. My fingers hovered above the register. I felt my chest tighten. I looked out the window. A black SUV had pulled up to the speaker. No headlights. No visible plate. It rolled forward, gliding like it wasn't even touching the ground. The rear passenger window edged down 1 inch. Not enough to see a face, but enough to see the tip of a camcorder. A lens, gleaming in the lot's sickly yellow light, stared directly at me. "Is this some kind of joke?" I asked, louder now. No reply. The camera didn't move. I stepped back. I checked the headset. Dead. The line to Carla's mic was silent. When I turned around again, the SUV was gone. Not reversed, not driven off. Just gone. The lot was empty. I waited 5 minutes, called 911. The officer said it was probably a prank, maybe some kids filming YouTube content. But they didn't send anyone to check it out. I told Carla the next shift. She gave me a long look, then shrugged. "Weird night. Don't let it get to you." I wanted to believe it was a one-off. But the following Saturday, I clocked in at 11 p.m. sharp. I didn't say anything to anyone, just kept to my prep list, podcast in one ear, eyes on the fryer clock. At 11:36 p.m., the exact time from the week before, the speaker crackled. I froze, walked slowly to the headset. "Welcome to Burger King." Again, static. Then the voice. "Still alone, Justin?" The same SUV, same window crack, same camera lens. But this time I didn't say anything. I didn't move. I stood there staring as my stomach flipped over itself. I reached for my phone, fumbled with the lock screen, but by the time I looked up again, gone. No tire squeal, no movement, just black pavement and wind. I tried to show Carla my camera feed from the store's exterior system. Nothing was there, just me talking to empty air. "You gotta stop watching that creepy podcast stuff," she muttered. The thing is, I had already stopped. By the third week, I came in prepared. I set up a GoPro facing the lot from the break room window, wore my name tag clean and centered. I even ran a sound test on the speaker mic. Everything worked. At exactly 11:36 p.m., the static hit. I moved slow this time, raised my phone and hit record before I even said hello. "First window. May I take your order?" The SUV glided up again, headlights off, no license plate. But this time the camera caught something. Not the vehicle, not clearly, just a shape, like a distortion near the glass. Something that flickered darker than night itself, then vanished. The voice returned. "We're still here, Justin." I watched the video 5 times. There was something at the edge of the frame just outside the light spill. I couldn't describe it, but I knew it wasn't natural. I showed Carla. "That's a lens flare," she said. "Maybe your own reflection." It wasn't a reflection. It wasn't me. That night I didn't sleep. Every honk outside, every engine hum pulled me to the window. I started watching the lot cameras even after my shifts ended. I stopped talking to Emily about it. She'd been doing better, eating regularly, going back to classes, and I didn't want to add fear to her plate. But then the messages started. They weren't texts, exactly. They came through burner Instagram accounts. No followers, no posts. Each message the same. You didn't see it yet, but we see you. I blocked the accounts, deleted the app, changed my number. They kept coming. Then one night, I opened my locker and found a flash drive. No note, no markings, just a single file. Drive-thru, Justin-faced move. The clip was short, 5 seconds. It showed me at the drive-thru window, mouth slightly open, eyes wide with fear. You could see the mic, the speaker box, the grill behind me. I watched as I mouthed something. I think it was help. The footage cut out in static. That's when I quit. I didn't ask for my last paycheck. I didn't say goodbye. I walked out mid-shift and never went back. I told Emily we needed to move again, found a cheap motel near Henderson. She thought I was being paranoid. Maybe I was, but that fear didn't end. A month later, I pulled into a Wendy's on my way back from work. Warehouse gig, low pay but no customers. I parked under the lights, rolled the windows down, and just sat for a moment. Then I saw it. Parked 2 spaces ahead. Black SUV, lights off, no plate, tinted windows. I locked my doors. Didn't move. It didn't drive away. It vanished. Street camera feeds showed nothing. I haven't spoken to anyone about it since. Not Emily. Not friends. Not even a therapist. I check parking lots before I enter them. I won't use drive-thrus. I don't listen to podcasts anymore. I don't want to hear voices I can't see. They never needed to be seen to be real. They never needed proof. I keep the flash drive. I never watched it again. But I know it's there. I feel watched still, even now in quiet parking garages or when a car with tinted windows pulls up beside me at a red light. Sometimes the scariest thing is realizing you're the only one who knows the truth, and no one believes you because there's nothing to show. But what if seeing was never the point? What if they were never meant to be recorded at all? What would you do if the fear that haunted you couldn't be proven, only felt? I used to think the flicker of a projector lamp was the purest light in the world. When I was 12, I'd sneak into the indie theater on Charleston Boulevard, sit in the back row and pretend the grainy French films on screen were secret messages meant for me alone. I shot my first short on a borrowed Handycam, edited it on a cracked version of Premiere, and swore nothing. Not money, not fear, not any vaguest distraction would steer me off the road to Sundance. 2 semesters into film school, that dream was already limping, but I kept feeding it, convinced it just needed one more infusion of cash and belief. So I opened credit cards like trapdoors, let the balances drop me into deeper darkness, maxing out limits before the dust settled. When the short finally limped onto YouTube and 10 lonely views blinked back at me, bots, cousins, maybe an ex, I felt something inside me unplug. I sold the camera that had once felt like an extension of my hand. I slept on friends' couches until the favors soured. I drove for Uber because it didn't require a resume thicker than the regret in my pocket. Nights blurred, airport runs, strip pickups, half-drunk confessions in the back seat. The dashboard smelled like fryer grease even before fate steered me toward a real fryer. The sign for the 24-hour Burger King on Summerlin hung against the desert sky like a last-call neon halo. I parked, applied, started the same night. Graveyard shift meant no tourists asking about Elvis chapels, just a slow drip of humanity at its most unfiltered, people too wired, too numb, or too lost to go home. I told myself it was research, that every stray sentence a customer muttered might turn into the perfect opening line of my redemption screenplay. The first weeks felt almost meditative, stainless steel surfaces glinting under fluorescent lights, fries hissing like quiet applause, me sketching storyboards on grease-spotted notepads between orders. But patterns began to pulse beneath the ordinary. Cars ghosting through the lot, headlights off. A gray Honda Civic idling across the street 3 nights in a row, engine never cutting. Customers lingering without ordering, eyes vacant as slot machine zombies. I shrugged it off. Vegas breeds weird like desert breeds dust. Still, an itch settled at the base of my skull. Tonight the itch felt more like a warning. Shift started 10:45 p.m. sharp. Malik, our stone-faced night manager, handed me the till and retreated to his office cave. Denise tapped out at 1:30 to cram for finals, leaving me alone with the grills, the humming soda fountain, and a quiet that pressed too hard on my eardrums. At 1:50, a homeless man staggered through the drive-thru on foot, screaming at the metal speaker as if it answered to him. "They're inside already," he rasped, eyes saucer-wide. "You can't see because you're looking." Then he bolted, shoes slapping asphalt. I'd seen meth paranoia before, but the terror in his voice wasn't chemical, it was raw. 11 minutes later, the door chime pinged. 5 men drifted in like they'd rehearsed the timing. Early 30s, fit, each dressed in nondescript jeans and jackets. They didn't smell of booze. They didn't clown around like bachelor party stragglers. Their eyes never flicked to the menu. They dispersed. One by the bathrooms, one at a corner booth, one leaning over the counter so close I could see the faint grid of a healed scar above his eyebrow. The last 2 hovering near opposite walls like sentries. The air cooled a degree. I fumbled with cup lids, pretending inventory mattered. That's when I noticed her. A young woman sat alone by the window, a cheeseburger untouched in front of her, condensation pooling around her soda cup. She lifted her gaze to mine, steady, dark, resolute, and formed 3 words without sound. "Don't look scared." Her eyes darted to the bathroom hallway, then back. She stood smoothing her jacket and slipped into the women's room. A soft click behind me, the entrance bolt sliding home. Not a customer locking out a draft, an inside job. Ice phosphoresced down my spine. I reached for the under-counter panic button. My fingers met duct tape sealing the switch like a bandage on a buried wound. Scar eyebrow leaned closer. "We need what's in the safe," he said, conversational as shopping for milk. "No delays." "It's on a time lock," I replied, voice steady only because terror hadn't fully caught up. "Opens at 4. His eyelids half closed, less disappointment than inevitability. "We need it anyway." Before I could answer, the fluorescent tubes overhead fluttered. Once. Twice. A hush thicker than silence fell. Even the friars paused their habitual sizzle as if listening. The 5 men stilled, eyes tilted toward the ceiling vent above the grill. A dull thump sounded inside the duct, metal on metal, and a bloom of dust snowed onto the hood. One of them smiled so faintly I might have imagined it. The restroom door creaked open. Malik emerged. Zip ties cinched his wrists. A crimson ribbon traced his temple to his collar. He tottered forward, pupils blown wide, and whispered, "Don't trust," then collapsed like a puppet freed from strings. Fight trumped freeze. I sprinted through the kitchen, slammed the rear exit bar, and launched myself into desert night. Rounding the corner, I crashed into a patrol officer squatting by his cruiser, half-unwrapped burrito in hand. He tackled instinct first, pinning me against hot asphalt, shouting demands. I babbled about guns. 5 men, manager bleeding. He hauled me upright and called for backup. Within minutes, the restaurant blazed in red-blue strobes, radios crackling like cicadas. When the TAC team breached, the place sat pristine. Booths empty, lights steady. No blood, no Malik, no phantom girl's burger slowly wilting. The duct above the fryer was spotless. Security DVR tower gutted, cables clipped as cleanly as film splices. I rode to the station in cuffs for procedure, shivering under air conditioning that smelled like old coffee. Detective Jennings, sandy hair peppered with gray, interviewed me until dawn, circling back to the same disbelief. No forensic trace matched my story. He hinted at staged burglary, inside job, caffeine hallucination. At 6 a.m., they released me to the neon pink sunrise. I parked outside a 7-Eleven nursing burnt coffee, replaying every frame. My phone buzzed near noon. Denise's voice quivered. When I described the girl by the window, she insisted that booth had been empty all night. I felt the ground tilt. Compulsion drove me back before corporate could board the doors. In alley shadow near the dumpsters lay a black burner phone. The screen lit with a single audio file time-stamped 2:19 a.m. I pressed play, breathing. Then a whisper that rasped like sand through gears. He's next. Panic became passport. By sundown, I'd emptied my bank account, ditched everything with a magnetic strip, and aimed my Corolla at the state line. I drove until Colorado dawn haloed the peaks, then kept going. Motel rooms became chapters. Flagstaff, Albuquerque, Amarillo, always cash, always a different alias scribbled in the guest book. Nights bloomed with insomnia. Every vent thump, every hallway footstep rewound me to Summerlin. Weeks blurred into months. I trimmed my beard, dyed my hair, tossed phones like used tissues. The world shrank to the width of headlights on blacktop. Then an article surfaced on a fringe forum. Another 24-hour Burger King robbery in Yuma. Same silent tactics, no witnesses, one employee missing. My chest cinched. A month later, a padded envelope waited at a forwarding address I'd set up under a fake name. No return label. Inside, a photo of me pumping gas outside Gallup, New Mexico, timestamp smudged, and a flash drive. I booted an ancient laptop, isolated from Wi-Fi, and clicked the lone audio file. 3 words, clear and deliberate, filled the speakers like breath on the back of my neck. We remember you. I stared at the cracked motel wallpaper, felt the narrow room contract. I understood then that whatever happened in Vegas wasn't a movie wrapped. It was an opening scene. And I'm still in frame. I don't enter fast food joints anymore. I measure every ceiling panel, trace every lock with my thumb. I leave town when streets start feeling familiar. Sleep comes in shallow sips, lamp on full glare. Because memory, I've learned, is a door that swings both ways. I survived by paying attention once. Now attention is all that stands between me and whatever waits to finish its story. So tell me, when the lights in your life flicker, do you chalk it up to faulty wiring, or do you ask what might be signaling through the dark? If you'd asked me back then what rock bottom looked like, I'd have probably pictured some cliché, crying in a bathtub maybe, or sleeping in your car. But the truth is, rock bottom doesn't always come with screaming or chaos. Sometimes, it's the sound of a mop bucket sloshing across greasy tiles at 11:15 on a Wednesday night. Sometimes, it's lukewarm fries under flickering lights while your shift shoes stick to the floor and your chest feels like it's being crushed under wet blankets you can't throw off. I never planned to be working night shifts at a Burger King 2 miles from the university where I almost graduated. I was supposed to finish my psych degree, maybe move into counseling, help people. Instead, I cleaned out ketchup dispensers and scraped gum off booths, trying to forget the parts of myself that used to have dreams. My name's Evelyn. I'm 22 now, originally from Joliet, but I moved to Chicago when I got into a program I was proud of. The first year went all right. Second year, things began slipping. I don't even remember when the panic attacks started, just that they were sudden and sharp, like an invisible knife to the ribs. I'd freeze up in lectures. My hands would go numb. Once I collapsed in the hallway between classes and couldn't move my legs for 15 minutes. People thought I was epileptic. The school nurse called it academic burnout. One of the campus counselors said it sounded like situational anxiety disorder. I stopped showing up, couldn't focus on online classes, couldn't even bring myself to check emails. My mom had moved back to the Philippines after her father got sick, and my dad had his new family in North Carolina. There wasn't anyone to call. Rent came due, groceries didn't buy themselves, and the only place that would hire me without a degree or recent work history was the Burger King near the Red Line stop. The job was repetitive, but there was something safe in it. I didn't have to think, just follow the motions. Restock condiments at 9, sweep the lobby at 10, mop the floor, and lock up by 11. The walls didn't ask questions. The fryer didn't care if I was falling apart. And for a while, that was enough. Until she started showing up. It was the night before Thanksgiving, raining hard. Most students had already gone home, and the streets were empty except for the occasional bus groaning to a stop across the intersection. I was finishing up my sweep when the front door creaked open at 10:47 p.m. on the dot. I remember because I had just glanced at the clock above the soda fountain. She stepped in like she belonged there. Pale, tall, soaking wet, her long green coat hanging off her shoulders like it had been underwater. She didn't look around or fumble for her phone, just walked straight up to the counter like she'd been there before. "Whopper, no onions. Please toast the bun longer this time," she said. There was something unsettling in her calmness. Not rude, not warm, just still. Her voice didn't fit the room. I blinked, unsure whether I'd misheard her, but I keyed in the order anyway and handed it over a few minutes later. She took the tray and walked to the far booth, the one by the window we never really cleaned because nobody ever stayed long enough to notice. She didn't eat, just sat with her hands folded, watching the reflection of the parking lot lights dance across the glass. Her eyes never left mine. "We close in a few, ma'am," I said quietly, drying my hands on a towel. She didn't move, just nodded once, barely perceptible. That night, she waited until I turned around to grab the mop. When I looked back, the booth was empty. No sound, no door chime. Her food untouched, still steaming. I didn't sleep right that night. Chalked it up to stress, maybe too much caffeine. But the next Wednesday, 10:47 again, she came back. Same coat, same soaked hair, though it hadn't rained all day. Same order, same booth. Jay, who worked fries on my shift, noticed me staring. "She your stalker or something?" he joked. "She's just weird," I muttered. "Never eats, never talks. Maybe she's a ghost, like a sad one waiting for her dead boyfriend," he said, laughing. Imani, our shift supervisor, snorted. "Y'all need to stop watching so many horror movies." But I couldn't shake the way my chest got tight every time that booth filled up again, like I was the one being watched. The third week I tried to talk to her again, asked if she wanted napkins. She didn't even blink. Her coat was dripping like she'd just stepped out of a river. Fourth week, the store's music died when she walked in. No joke. 1 second, generic pop playing over the system, and then static. Not even silence. Static. When she sat down, it stopped. Just like that. I remember whispering, "What the hell?" under my breath, but Jay just kept scooping fries like nothing happened. Fifth week, I was alone. Jay left early, Imani called out. At 10:45, the air in the store shifted. That's the only way I can describe it. Like the room tightened, like a held breath you didn't know was yours. When the door opened at 10:47, I knew it would be her. But this time, she didn't go to the counter. She walked to the booth, sat down, and just stared at me, unblinking. The lights dimmed slightly. The buzzing in the ceiling light grew louder. "He shouldn't have left me here," she said. Not loud, not angry, just broken. I paused, not sure I heard right. "Sorry." "Who?" She wasn't looking at me anymore. Her hands were fists on the table, her eyes cloudy like old glass. She whispered again. "I waited in this booth for 11 hours. They all forgot I was here." My hand clenched around the edge of the prep station. The fryer oil hissed behind me. "Do you need help?" I asked. "Do you want me to call someone?" She looked up. Her face changed, like a smirk and a sob twisted together. Then she reached into her coat and pulled out a folded photograph. She slid it toward the edge of the table. I picked it up. My stomach dropped. It was a grainy print, old and yellowed, dated October 1996. The same booth, the same Burger King, A teenage girl sat alone in the corner, slouched, exhausted. It was me. Same eyes, same mouth, same mole on my left cheek. I stumbled back, heart pounding. "What is this? Where did you get this?" She didn't answer. And then, just like the first night, the lights flickered. A bulb near the bathrooms burst with a pop. The electronic lock on the back door clicked shut. When I turned back, she was gone. Only the Whopper sat on the table, steam curling up like it hadn't cooled at all. The next day, I begged the manager to let me review the security footage. He rolled his eyes. "Did she steal something?" "No, I need to know if she was here." He gave in. We pulled up the feed for the night before. From 10:40 to 11:05, everything was normal, until 10:47. Right then, the video glitched. Not just a flicker, 6 minutes and 42 seconds of static. When it came back, I was standing alone, staring at the empty booth, my mouth slightly open, eyes wide. "Evelyn, you good?" he asked. I said I was fine, but I wasn't. I couldn't shake it, couldn't focus. Later that day, while on break, I asked Callie, the new girl, if she'd ever heard anything strange about the store. She looked up from her phone. "Oh yeah, you know someone died in that booth, right?" My whole body tensed. "What?" "Back in the 90s, girl working overnight shift, got locked in during inventory. Manager forgot to check the booths before closing. She froze. They found her the next morning." I swallowed. "You know her name?" She shook her head. "No, just the story. They say she still comes in sometimes, before close, like she's looking for the one who left her there." I didn't say anything, didn't have to. I switched to mornings the next week, told everyone it was for classes. Truth was, I couldn't walk past that booth without feeling like I'd stepped into someone else's life. Or maybe it was mine. Some nights, I dream of her, sitting in that booth, hands folded, eyes sharp, her coat still wet. I wake up soaked in sweat, the smell of fryer grease clinging to my sheets. Sometimes I find footprints in my entryway I know I didn't make. Last week, I walked past the Burger King near closing, just glanced in through the rain. Booth was empty, but the bun warmer kicked on by itself. The register blinked. An order had just been placed. Whopper, no onions. I didn't go in. Some stories don't belong to you, but they still remember your name. And some ghosts? They don't want revenge, they just want you to sit down. Remember. What if the haunting isn't about a ghost at all? What if it's about the part of you that never got up from that booth? What do you owe to the person you used to be if she's still waiting? You ever wake up in the middle of your life and not recognize anything around you? Not the ceiling above you, the hands you're holding, not even the face in the mirror. That was me. 2 months clean, 32 years old, sitting on a second-hand mattress in a sober living house in Spokane, wondering how I made it out of Portland alive. The last time I OD'd, I'd been left on a city bus bench in the rain. Woke up shivering, wallet gone, dignity gone. That was the moment I realized I either had to claw my way out or disappear like the rest of the ghosts. I found a place up north, quiet neighborhood, decent halfway house, low rent, shared kitchen. Most guys were cool, or at least quiet, which was enough. I started going to meetings every day, tried to take it seriously. I needed a job, something routine, something that didn't ask too many questions about my past. Sergio, the night manager at the Burger King on North Monroe, didn't care about clean records, just clean mops. He hired me to work the lobby from noon to 5, part-time, minimum wage. Didn't matter. I wasn't trying to build a career. I just wanted to breathe. The routine helped. I'd sweep the same tile floors, wipe down the same Formica tables, nod politely to the same 4 regulars who came in for their afternoon coffee. For the first time in years, I could feel time again. The real kind. The kind you can measure by daylight and footsteps and the smell of fry oil in your clothes. There was something honest in it. Repetitive, but comforting. Safe. Until March 11th. It was a Monday. I remember because I'd been feeling weird all day, itchy, like the air had too much static. I was finishing my last loop around the dining room, mop bucket squeaking behind me, when he walked in. Beige windbreaker, old ball cap, no eye contact. He ordered a cheeseburger and a small coffee, handed over exact change without a word, and drifted to the booth in the far back by the window. It wasn't what he ordered. It was how he sat. Still. Too still. He held the wrapped burger like it was fragile, like he wasn't sure if it was real. No bite, no sip. Just staring. Like he'd forgotten what eating was for. I tried to break the weird silence. I walked over with a half smile, said, "Burger too beautiful to eat or just waiting for it to talk first?" He didn't laugh, didn't blink, didn't even look up. Just kept staring at the thing like it held secrets. I backed off. Later that night I mentioned it to Jasmine, the drive-thru shift. "The guy with the cheeseburger," I said, "he never touched it. Just sat there like he was waiting for something." She shrugged. "Some people are just broken in weird ways." Yeah, I knew about broken. But Tuesday he came again, same time, same booth, same order. And again he didn't touch it. The food was untouched when he left. Not a crumb disturbed. I checked the trash. Nothing. No wrapper, no cup. Like he'd never eaten, never drunk. Like the food itself wasn't real. By Thursday, I started watching him more closely. Not in a creepy way, just something about him was off. That kind of stillness isn't natural. I noticed how dry the coffee cup stayed. The lid never steamed. And when he got up, I swear to God he left nothing behind. Not even a napkin. Friday, I decided I couldn't let it go. I lingered around the mop closet pretending to reorganize supplies. At 4:26 he came in, same as before. Beige windbreaker, baseball cap. No expression. He walked to the counter, ordered the usual, sat in the same booth and unwrapped the burger like it was ritual. That's when I heard it. A whisper. I stepped closer, sweeping slowly, pretending not to stare. "She doesn't see me," he muttered. "But I see you. You're the same. You're just pretending not to remember." My spine locked up. It wasn't a crazy person mumble. It was sharp, precise. Like he was talking to someone he'd waited years to confront. I froze mid-sweep, heart pounding in my ears. The man didn't move, didn't blink, just kept whispering like the burger owed him answers. That night I told Sergio. He agreed to check the cameras. What we saw on the footage, it's burned into me. There I was, talking, smiling awkwardly. But the booth? Empty. No man, no burger, no coffee. It made my stomach knot. Sergio didn't say much, just went pale and told me to hang tight. A few minutes later, he came back holding something in his hand. A yellowed, wrinkled receipt. He said he found it taped to the bottom of the booth. Date, March 11th, 1998. Order, cheeseburger, small coffee. Name, Calvin Moore. I Googled the name that night. He used to work there, went missing during a shift. His car left running in the lot, food untouched on the table. Cold case, never solved. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't stop thinking about the look on his face, that blank stare, like a man frozen in time. I skipped my shift Saturday. Jasmine covered for me, but my head was full of static. I started having dreams. Same booth, same silence, same whisper. She doesn't see me. By Monday, I couldn't stay away. At 4:10, I walked in through the back, tied my apron, grabbed the mop, and waited. The air felt heavier, like the walls themselves were holding their breath. 4:24. Door chimed. He stepped inside. Same jacket, same steps. He ordered, turned, and made his way to the booth like it was inevitable. But this time, he looked right at me. I couldn't move. His face wasn't monstrous, just exhausted, human, like someone who's been sitting in silence too long. He lifted the coffee cup, held it near his lips. "You were supposed to help me," he whispered, and this time I answered. "I'm not her," I said, barely above a whisper. "I don't know who she was. I'm just trying to stay clean. I'm trying to live." His eyes softened. He set the cup down, and then he stood up, walked out. No disappearing act, just a man stepping out into the cold. But when I sat in his place, the cup was warm, half full, steam rising. I've never seen him since, but Jasmine did. 1 week later, during her shift, he came. She looked right at him, smiled. He wasn't on the tape. It wasn't just me. I told Marcus, my sponsor, everything. This time, he didn't try to reason it away, just sat quietly, nodding, like he knew what I meant. Then he said, "Maybe you weren't supposed to help him. Maybe you're meant to help people like him." I think about that all the time. I left Burger King that spring, took a job at a halfway house. I help guys fresh out of detox find jobs, stay clean, breathe again. Some make it, some don't. But I try. I still drive by the Burger King some mornings. That booth is always empty. Nobody sits there, not even during the lunch rush. But I still nod toward it, just in case he's still waiting. Because sometimes I think Calvin was never trying to scare anyone. I think he just didn't want to be forgotten. Maybe he wasn't even haunting that place. Maybe he was that place, stuck in the routine, in the last memory he could hold on to. And maybe, just maybe, the way we honor people like him isn't with fear, but with witness. Because not every ghost wants revenge. Some just need someone to see them. What if healing isn't about forgetting the past, but listening to it when it calls your name? I used to think rock bottom would be more dramatic, that there'd be a loud crash or a sign or a moment where you could say, "There, that's where I lost everything." But for me, it was quieter, like settling silt. One slow compromise after another until I was standing behind a counter that smelled like old grease, asking if you wanted fries with that. My name doesn't matter. Just know I didn't always work at a Burger King off North Main in High Point, North Carolina. I had bigger plans, college, a degree in sociology, a job helping kids who never got the right shot. I was going to matter, be somebody. Then came the marriage, then the screaming, then the divorce. My ex-husband had a lawyer and money. I had heart and no idea what to do next. The court gave me full custody of our 2 kids, said it like a gift. No one tells you how heavy love feels when you're carrying it uphill alone. I picked up night shifts and side jobs and somehow landed here, managing a half-dead fast food joint that never quite scrubbed off the smell of fryer oil from the late 90s. I took the Sunday closing shift because no one else wanted it. It was predictable, quiet, church crowds by day, silence by night, teen workers who flaked out or vaped behind the dumpster. My co-worker Andre was the only other adult on the crew, an ex-cook turned cashier who mostly kept his head down and earbuds in. We didn't talk much, which suited me fine. It was a Sunday night in late September when I first saw him. 6:58 p.m. I remember because I was watching the clock, counting the minutes until we locked the doors. I was wiping down the soda counter when I saw a kid sitting in one of the side booths near the indoor play area. He had a yellow jacket, old-looking, like something from a church donation bin. The sleeve had a tear near the elbow. He wasn't eating, no drink, no parents. Just sitting there, hands folded, staring at the wall. I approached slowly. You learn not to startle kids, especially when they're alone. "Hey, bud, are your parents here?" He turned his head slightly. No fear, no surprise. Just calm, like he'd been expecting me. "They told me to wait," he said. "So I'm waiting." His voice didn't waver. It was flat. Too calm. Like he'd already accepted something I hadn't figured out yet. I asked if he wanted food. He said he'd already eaten. Said someone was coming soon. So I waited with him. 10 minutes. Then 15. Andre leaned over from the register. "You good?" Or you want me to call someone? I hesitated. Some part of me thought the parents were just late, stuck in traffic. People lose track of time. Kids wander. Maybe they'd come barreling in, apologizing, frantic. But when 30 minutes passed and the boy was still sitting there not moving, I headed back over to tell him we were calling the cops. Only, he wasn't there. Not on the seat. Not under the table. Not walking to the bathroom. Gone. Completely. I walked in circles like an idiot calling "Hey," even though I didn't know his name. Andre and I tore the place apart. Bathrooms, kitchen, dumpster area out back. Nothing. Not a single sound. Then came the cameras. I expected the footage to make sense. At the very least, show me a kid walking in. But he wasn't there. Just me, walking to an empty booth, talking to it, smiling, kneeling, even laughing nervously at one point. But the booth was empty. No child. No yellow jacket. Andre watched the screen twice before whispering, "I saw him too." We didn't report it. Who would believe us? Fast food workers hallucinate ghosts now. The next Sunday, I stayed alert. 6:58 p.m. came and went. Nothing. But the week after, he returned. Same booth, same posture, same yellow jacket. I didn't approach this time, just watched. There was a weird density to the air, like the temperature dropped 2 degrees around him. He sat 20 minutes. Then he was gone. No exit, no chime, no trace. It became routine. Every Sunday, always at the same time, and always invisible to the cameras. But we reacted, me and Andre, like we were seeing something the security footage couldn't. I started coming in early on Sundays. Andre never questioned it. Maybe he felt it too. That strange pull, like watching fog roll in slowly, week after week, and being unable to stop it. The 4th Sunday, I sat across from him. "Hey," I said, keeping my voice steady. "Who are you waiting for?" This time he looked up. His eyes were too dark, too old. Not in a creepy horror movie way, just wrong for his face. Heavy, tired. "My mom worked here," he said. "She was supposed to take me home, but she never did." I swallowed something hard. "What's your name?" He tilted his head. "I think she forgot," he whispered. "They locked the doors. She never came back." Then he stood and walked into the playroom. I followed seconds later. It was dark, empty, freezing. No sound, no motion. Gone again. That night, I stayed up searching. I typed everything I could think of. Burger King fire, High Point, child, missing. After an hour, I found it. A fire in 2002. Employee died. Cynthia Myers. Smoke inhalation. She had run back inside trying to save her son. But the son had already made it out. He was found sitting on the curb in a yellow jacket. Alive. His name was Tyler. He went into foster care. Adopted the next year. Died in a car crash in 2003. Not far from Asheville. Tyler Myers, 8 years old. A mother who died to save a son who wasn't there. A boy waiting for a mother who never came back. 2 missed connections circling time. It hollowed me out. Not with fear, but sadness. He wasn't angry. He wasn't haunting us with rage. He was just waiting. The way only children can wait, with faith unshaken by time or logic. That week I gave up my Sunday shifts. Andre didn't ask why. I told him it was personal. He nodded like he understood. I went to a thrift store and bought a yellow jacket, close enough, a tear in the sleeve. I folded it gently and tucked it in the lost and found behind the register. No one ever claimed it. But I liked knowing it was there. It's been months now. Sometimes I still look toward the playroom when I close late. Part of me hopes I'll see him again, but he only comes on Sundays. Still at 6:58 p.m., still waiting for the ride that never came. And I wonder, what if Cynthia is still out there too? Maybe trapped, maybe searching, maybe getting closer week after week. And if she is, I hope someday they find each other. Until then, I keep the jacket folded, Some ghosts don't need to be cast out. Some just need someone to wait with them. Because grief doesn't always scream. Sometimes it whispers from a booth beside a plastic slide where love never got the chance to say goodbye. And maybe the question we should all ask isn't, what do they want? Maybe it's, what would it take for you to wait forever? You don't realize how much of your life happens on repeat until something finally cracks it open. I'd been working the evening shift at the Burger King off Redwood Parkway for nearly 2 years when it happened. Sterling Falls wasn't big enough to be busy all the time, but we still had the regular rhythms. Kids in hoodies stealing ketchup, night drivers craving Whoppers, the high school couples who thought the corner booth counted as privacy. I was 23 then, juggling community college classes in psychology while trying to keep rent paid and anxiety under control. My days were sleep-deprived, my nights full of fryer oil and the same 3 playlists on loop. But I liked the predictability. I didn't want excitement. I wanted silence. Especially after what happened the winter before. Nobody knew much about it, just that my older sister had disappeared. Run away, maybe. Or something darker. She left behind a journal entry that read more like a goodbye than a plan. That journal's why I switched majors, why I kept checking the exits at work, why I memorized the make and model of every car that circled the parking lot too slowly. Trauma turns the world into a series of possible exits. That Tuesday in June, the air was wet and hot, the kind of heat that sticks under your uniform and doesn't let go. I'd been wiping trays and half-reading flashcards on dissociation and trauma cycles. Nothing out of the ordinary. Until 8:30 p.m., when the door chimed and she walked in. She didn't look like much at first. Maybe 14. Skinny in the way some kids are when they're still growing but haven't eaten right in a while. A soaked gray hoodie clung to her arms and her jeans were stiff from water. But it hadn't rained. I remember that part clearly. The streets were dry. My manager had even commented on the heat. She walked up to the counter like she'd done it before. Too calm, too direct. No hesitation in her steps. She looked me straight in the eye and said, "Can I have a cup of ice?" Just that. Not a smile. Not a please. Her voice barely cleared a whisper. I remember leaning forward just to hear it. "Just ice?" I asked, trying not to sound skeptical. She nodded. "Sure," I said, turning to the bin. "No charge." We're not supposed to give things away for free, but it wasn't like she was asking for fries. I filled one of the insulated cups we used for drinks and handed it over. She took it without another word and walked to the farthest booth in the back, away from the windows, from the lights, from the doors. She sat with her back to the wall and curled her fingers around the cup like it was made of gold. I kept one eye on her. You work food service long enough, you learn who's killing time and who's carrying something heavier. She wasn't scrolling a phone or waiting on anyone. She wasn't really chewing the ice either, just biting it down one piece at a time, like it anchored her. Every time the doors beeped open, her eyes snapped toward them. Quick, sharp, controlled panic. Lex, my coworker, leaned over to me around 9:15 and whispered, "That girl's been here a while. You think she's okay?" I didn't know how to answer. My gut was yelling yes and no at the same time. She didn't move. Didn't ask for anything else, she just kept chewing. Eyes wide, always scanning. Her whole body was stiff like she was expecting something. Or someone. That someone walked in around 9:40. He was older. Mid-40s maybe. Tall. Heavy flannel jacket despite the heat. His beard was thick and dark with streaks of gray, and his boots hit the tile like he'd worn them through more than just dirt. He looked around slow, scanning every booth like he was trying not to look like he was scanning. But I saw the way his eyes landed on her. Didn't call her name. Didn't wave. Just looked. And when she didn't flinch, he walked up to me instead. "You seen a girl come in?" he asked, voice low but not friendly. "Blonde, hoodie, about you tall." He held his hand at about chest level. My stomach dropped. "Sorry," I said, trying to keep my tone flat. We don't give out customer information. He gave this half smile that didn't match his eyes. She always finds a way to slip out. Slippery little thing. Then he walked past the counter and sat one booth behind her. Not across, not beside, directly behind, like he was watching without watching. She didn't move, didn't even look at him, but I saw her knuckles whiten around the cup. I pretended to wipe a nearby table just to stay close. My pulse felt like it was inside my teeth. He never said another word, just sat there, didn't order food, didn't take out a phone, just watched. Then 10 minutes later, he stood up, walked outside, and got into a truck already running. The engine stayed on, headlights off. He just sat there staring through the glass. The second he moved outside, the girl got up, silent, swift. She walked toward the restrooms like it was planned. 5 minutes passed. 10. No sound. I knocked lightly on the door. "You okay in there?" I asked, just loud enough to be heard. Nothing. I glanced outside. The truck was still there, still idling. I turned back. The restroom door stayed closed. Then, at 10:05, it opened. She peeked out, eyes wide, cautious, almost feral. I stepped closer. "Is that man following you?" I asked quietly. She nodded, barely. "You can come back here," I said, motioning toward the staff hallway. "You'll be safer." She hesitated, then slid past me without a sound, disappearing behind the ice machine. I sent Lex to call the manager, then the cops. But by the time Lex got back, the truck was gone. And so was she. We checked everything, every restroom, every supply closet, back exit, freezer, nothing. Only thing left was the cup, melted into a small pool. And under it, a crumpled napkin. I picked it up with trembling fingers. Black ink smudged but still legible. If he asks, tell him I ran the other way. I don't remember the rest of the shift clearly. I gave my statement to the police, hands shaking the whole time. We tried to pull security footage, but the manager shook her head. "Wi-Fi glitched earlier," she said. "System was down for about 20 minutes. The exact 20 minutes when it all happened. The cops didn't find anything. No truck, no girl, no records of a missing person. No one filed a report that matched her description. For days, I scoured online databases. Nothing. No Amber Alerts. No social media posts. No one missing a girl like that. And yet, I couldn't let it go. She had been there. I'd seen her. Helped her. I knew I had. I stopped eating at that Burger King. Started taking my breaks outside instead of inside. Something about the booths felt wrong after that. But I didn't quit. Bills were bills. And honestly, a part of me hoped she'd come back, or that he would, that I'd get another shot to do it right. Say more. Be better prepared. Every shift, I watched the door like it owed me answers. Weeks passed. Nothing. Then one night around 9 p.m., a girl came in asking for a cup of ice. Not the same girl. Younger. Maybe 12. I froze for a second before handing it to her. She gave me a weird look, like I'd stared too long. She sat alone, then left 15 minutes later. No one followed her. No man appeared. But it hit me then. How many kids come in asking for ice, and we never ask why? After that, I kept granola bars under the counter. Bottled water, too. My manager thought I was weird for doing it, but didn't stop me. Maybe she saw something in my eyes. Then, a week later, an envelope showed up. No return address. Just the words, "To staff." Inside was a single image, a traffic cam still, our Burger King in the background, and there she was, mid-stride, walking toward our door. Timestamp, June 10th, 8:29 p.m. On the back, someone had scrawled, "She got out, keep helping." I stood in the break room staring at that note for so long my knees locked up. Lex didn't believe it at first, then he stared at the photo and went pale. We taped it inside our back locker, behind the cleaning chart. A reminder. Some nights people don't come in for food. They come in to disappear. We just have to be ready. Because maybe the smallest thing, a cup of ice, a locked door, an extra look, can be the one thing that keeps them from vanishing completely. So now, every shift, I leave a cup of ice by the register, just in case. And sometimes, someone takes it. What if the safest place someone can think of is the one you've never thought twice about? Would you be ready?